Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhagati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavat Gita as it is, Chapter 2, entitled Content of the Gita Summarized, reading from text 15 through 20. Text 15. Yam hina vyathayantyete purusham purushashabha samadukha sukham dhiram Sa amritatvaya kalpate. Translation. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Text 16. Na sata vidyate bhavo Na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi drishtontas tva anayos tattvadarshibi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent material body there is no endurance, and of the eternal soul there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Text 17. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Text 18. Antavanta ime deha nitya yokta sharirinaha anashino aprameyasya tasmad yuddhasva bharata. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. Text 19. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhautau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. Text 20. Na jayate mayate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitavan bhuyaha ajanitya shashvatayam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunvalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swaminiti Namine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nataya Kripa Padaya Gora Kathathamadaya Nagara Gramatanine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, at this point in the Bhagavad Gita, text 15 actually marks a very important junction, because this is for the very first time a spiritual goal is mentioned by Krishna. Never before has Krishna ever talked about this particular aspect. Let's read the translation one more time. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So liberation is a goal, it's a destination, supreme destination. It's a spiritual goal, spiritual ambition. And Krishna is mentioning this aspect for the very first time in the Bhagavad Gita. He is mentioning the word liberation, actually. So, Krishna is saying that by performing our prescribed duties, when we do our karma, we will be able to get jnana out of that, knowledge out of that. And these two are actually prerequisites for mukti, for liberation. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. It's like the first time that Krishna is mentioning this, 2.15. So it's anytime anyone asks, we should be able to say. That is how nicely we should study the Bhagavad Gita. That, devotees sometimes are so expert that they repeat the Bhagavad Gita so expertly because it is explained that there is no such question that exists that Arjuna has not asked Krishna. Therefore, all answers, to any question in the world, all the answers can be found in the Bhagavad Gita itself. If anyone can properly study the Bhagavad Gita, they can find answers in this Bhagavad Gita. So there's something very important. So when we study systematically the Bhagavad Gita, we should make notes. We should, try to remember, so that when we are trying to repeat the words of the Gita, then we'll be able to say, yes, Krishna does talk about mukti. Who is a person who is eligible for mukti? A person who is undisturbed in happiness and distress and is of steady mind, and they are steady in both situations, then they are eligible for liberation. So very clear description of a person, what are the prerequisites for a person who is eligible for liberation. Very beautifully explained here. Moving on to text 16, Krishna is saying that those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, which is the material body, there is no endurance, And of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. So this they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Now sometimes these words can get very confusing, but there's nothing to get confused. It's all very big words, so sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. But simply if we try to understand that the material body, there is no endurance. What does endurance mean? The capability to sustain long. So there is no endurance means there is no capability for it to sustain for long. The material body has to change. And of the eternal spirit soul, there is no change. It is eternal. That is why it is called eternal. So that is what is mentioned here in text 16. And apart from what Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, Srila Prabhupada very clearly mentions that, a distinction between body and the soul. What is the distinction? The permanency of the spirit soul and the non-permanency of the body, the temporary nature of the body. Srila Prabhupada very beautifully, elaborately explains it in the purport to this particular verse. But mainly, Krishna is actually rebuking Arjuna to us. That Krishna is saying that the seer of the truth recognize that there is a difference between the body and the soul. So indirectly, Krishna is telling Arjuna that despite, you being such a scholarly person, you have not understood things that are supposed to be understood by intelligent people, O Arjuna. So Krishna is clarifying the truth that nashate vidyate bhavo and nabhavo vidyate shataha, which means that first thing is the material body and all material situations are temporary. Nashato vidyate bhavo. It will become, this bhava means the material conditions, the situations, the material body. It will become nasho, nashate. So nashato vidyate bhavo, and the second point is na bhavo vidyate sataha. So which means that things that are sataha means eternal. Things that are eternal, they are the ones who actually always permanently exist. So these are the two things that Krishna is stressing in this particular verse. Moving on, Krishna is saying that which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. So Srila Prabhupada very beautifully explains in the purport to this text 17 that what pervades through the entire body. What is flowing in our entire body? It is blood, right? So wherever blood goes in our body, we know there is presence of consciousness. Where there is no blood, if you even cut that part, you will not feel any pain. For example, the tip of your hair. If you cut the tip of your hair, you will not feel pain. But if you pull out a hair from its root, which is attached to your skull, if you pull out the hair, because the root is attached to your head, you feel the pain. There is some consciousness there where there is connection, immediate connection. There is blood flow into that part. Similarly, our nails. When we grow our nails, if you cut the, grown up nails, you don't feel pain. We don't feel pain when we cut our nails. But say, for example, while cutting our nail, if we go too close, we start bleeding and we feel immense pain. Because we are, that's where consciousness is there. But the extended part of the nail, that if we clip off, we don't feel the pain because there is no consciousness there. So that which is pervading the entire body is our consciousness. Prabhupada is explaining very beautifully in the purport. And but this, text 17, Krishna is actually referring to the second point that he made in text 16. Na bhavo vidyate shataha. That Krishna is explaining that the body, the duality of the body and the soul, and he will, this very, very important point of, that is mentioned here in text 16-17, Krishna does not mention this again ever in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the only place you will find this topic about the, the temporary part of the material body and the eternal aspect of the spirit soul. This 2 points is mentioned just specifically in 16, 17 and 18 verses. You won't find that Krishna is not repeating it again in the Bhagavad Gita. He repeats it in other way, but not in this very, very direct way. A very important point here. Then text 18 goes on to explain that the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. So this verse is, giving an opposite explanation or an reverse argument to Arjuna's proposal that by not fighting he will be able to save his family members from harm. Arjuna, when he was giving reasonings in chapter 1 that why he should not fight, one of the reasons that Arjuna gave was that why should I cause harm to my family members? Why should I give them harm? So Krishna here is giving, Krishna actually defies each and every argument that Arjuna had given. So this is one of the first defying fact. One of the first few ones, I would say. Krishna has defied some of them in the past also, but Krishna continues to do so in this particular verse also, especially where Arjuna had said, I don't want any harm to come to my family members. So Krishna is saying, what do you mean, Arjuna, that you don't want to cause any harm? The material body, it is perishable. When we buy a fruit, if you don't eat the fruit within a certain time period, the fruit will become rotten and it will not be edible. It will have an expiry date. That is the nature. It is the nature of, that something that is something that is temporary, something that is material. Similarly, our body, fruit, we can see it perishing or, getting rotten maybe in 1 week or 6-7 days or 8 days. But you can see the material body can start getting, starting to perish maybe after 80-90 years, at least in Kali Yuga. The body starts deteriorating even at 40. People's bodies, they start deteriorating at even 40, 50, 60. So, material, that is the nature of anything material, that it is going to perish. So what are you talking about not causing harm, Arjuna? Who are you to cause harm or not? Whether you will cause harm or not, doesn't matter. That body will anyways, be harmed. So don't think that you are going to do anything special by doing any harm to them. That's not possible. That is what Krishna is trying to explain. That fearing the death of others, Krishna is saying, is that is actually ignorance. Fearing for the death of others and fearing for the death of oneself is actually nothing but just mere ignorance. That is the point that Krishna is making. The soul is actually indestructible. So Prabhupada is actually making a very important point in the purport. He says, so from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity, he cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected. So from both points of view, there is no point to lament at all. Whether you are able to cause harm or not able to cause harm, it really doesn't matter, because the nature of the material body is that it's going to perish one day or the other. So that's what Krishna is trying to make Arjuna understand. Text 19 explains, neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So, in this regard, Krishna is actually again continuing to explain the the argument of Arjuna, that how could he think that he is going to be the person who is, causing the harm to his relatives. That was Arjuna's viewpoint, that he is the one who is killing his relatives and all that. So here, here Krishna is saying that whether if we are thinking that we are the ones who are slaying a person, or the living entity is the slayer, is not in knowledge, Krishna is saying. This point is actually further elaborated in the next verse. Basically, it is said that the living entity can do only one thing, which is to only desire. So if we can desire, then the living entity just becomes like a nimitta, like an instrument to end up with certain activities. But those activities, that karma is in the hand of that person. But the resultant action, the reaction of it, of that karma, is not in the hands of that particular person. That is what Krishna is trying to explain. And text 20 sums it all up. It is one of the important verses, the 108 important verses that Srila Prabhupada has given from the Bhagavad Gita. Very important verse. 2.20. It is na jayate mriyate va kadachan. So very important verse. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So basically, whatever we've talked from text 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, text 20 is a summary of all of that. So Krishna is very, very clearly saying to Arjuna that there is no birth or death for the soul at any time. The soul is ever existing. The soul is ever existing. And Krishna is again, it's like stressing the point so many times. We can understand the aspect of ever existing means that it is beyond the purview of time. But still, Krishna is saying, he has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Past, present, and future. So it's beyond the, when we talk about time in the material world, time according to us is linear. Like past, present, and future. That's how in the material world we see time as. But Vedic time is actually cyclic. Vedic time is cyclic because we have the cycle of birth and death. We have the cycle of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga that is going on in a circle. So Vedic timeline is actually cyclic. And our mundane vision of looking into time is linear, of past, present, future. But what is actual time? What is the actual purview of time? The actual purview of time, does time really exist in the spiritual world? No. Time does not exist in the spiritual world. Time is only present in the material realm. So therefore, the word eternal comes into existence because, eternal does not belong in the material realm. It cannot. We are in a wrong zone altogether right now. We are entrapped in a wrong zone. We are supposed to belong to the eternal spiritual world, and we are trapped in this mundane material world. Just imagine how much the living entity, the soul, is undergoing the suffering, staying in an abode which is not meant for it to be staying on. So that is why we need to understand that, the soul is unborn, it is eternal, it is ever existing, and it is primeval. And he is not slain when the body is slain. The soul transmigrates from one body to the other. It keeps jumping, it keeps hopping. Based on our desires, based on our karma, we keep accepting newer and newer bodies unless we realize that what am I doing going around the merry-go-round? Once we start feeling dizzy in this Disneyland, when we feel, okay, now I've gone on enough rides, gotten kicked around by Maya enough number of times. Now it's time for me to go back home. So then when we come to our father and say, Daddy, please take me home now. I am tired of Disneyland. Now let's go home. I want to go back to my real home. So then our daddy says, okay, I was waiting for you to say that. Whenever you say that, okay, you had enough of your Disneyland tour, then I'm ready to take you home. Come, let's go. So then the spiritual master takes our hand and takes us back home, back to Godhead. But it is up to us to get out of the ride and to realize that, okay, one ride after the other is not worth it. But when we go home, that home is a much, much better experience of Disneyland. Disneyland is nothing, compared to the happiness that we can find when we are home with our own family. So that's something that we should try to realize, and the only way that we can realize that, yes, Disneyland, we've had enough rides, now it's time for us to go back home, is by simply following what Lord Chaitanya has given us by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. When we chant, we will be able to realize this sooner and sooner. And then, by the mercy of the spiritual master, we'll be able to get out of this material world and enter into Krishna's sweet nectarian pastimes. So with this, we'll end here. If there's any questions, comments, or reflections, we can take that now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Wonderful class as usual. Very grateful to you for resuming the sessions again, Mataji. Thank you very much. Mataji, I had a question regarding the verse that one who is equiposed in happiness and
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Oh, Hare Krishna. I think Rajeshwari was speaking.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rajeshwari, please go on.
Thank you, Mataji. So in the verse where, so one who is equiposed in happiness, distress, is eligible for liberation. So this person, Mataji, what if they are not devotees and, they're really not devotees, but in mode of goodness, but not really devotees, they are equiposed. What is the ultimate destination of such persons, Mataji?
I didn't get the first part of your question, that who are not devotees?
No, Mataji. So, like, if a person is not a devotee, they're just regular people, but they are in the mode of goodness, and they are, and their swabhav is such that they are equipoised in happiness and distress, then what is their ultimate destination? They also achieve liberation without being devotees?
See, that's something very rare of an, scenario, to be equipoised in happiness and distress and not be a devotee. Then there would be something like maybe a, Mayavadi or Shunyavadi types. So, that's what they would be. Then their destination is the Brahma Jyoti.
Okay, Mata. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think Kirtida Sundari Mataji was speaking.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. And Krishna Prabhupada.
You seem to have a very bad cold.
Yes, Mataji. So, Mataji, I have one question. When you were explaining that, when Krishna was trying to explain Arjuna that you have no authority and this body is anyway perishing, so don't think yourself to be the doer and don't think that you are killing them. Doesn't this statement give benefit of doubt to all those people who are non-vegetarians, saying that if they are killing, anyways this chicken or this animal is going to die, it's perishable, so what if we are killing and consuming? Because up till now, there is no point in Bhagavad Gita where it comes about karma. Right? So my question is this only. So if you can try to elaborate a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, very good point. Actually, if you just read that purport, that particular purport, that has the answer. Purport is specifically talking about animal, violence upon animals. Purport specifically talking about that. So, just read that particular purport. It's quite a long one. So just read that. You'll find the answer right there.
Okay. Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you feel better.
Yes, Mataji, and same to you.
I will. Thank you. Any more questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So Mataji, in reference to Rajeshwari Mataji's question that, you find that some people are equipoised but they are not devotees. In the same way, I would like to, had this confusion that simplicity is generally considered to be associated with devotees. But sometimes we find that people are simple. They are quite simple and pious, but they're not devotees. I mean, how do we justify this? I mean, how do we understand this?
Understand what? Come again?
So, Mataji, when we say simplicity is generally associated with devotees. Devotees are very simple.
Okay, simplicity. Okay. Well, see, the thing is that people can pretend, Genuine simplicity is a rare commodity these days. Genuine simplicity is very, very rare. Yes, you can say that maybe 50 years down, previously, 50 years ago, if you go to any village in India, people were really simple. Yes, that is simplicity. But they were simple because they were very much God conscious. They didn't. They were actually living very much in harmony with Mother Nature. They were leading a pure, simple life, and a life that Prabhupada always said is simple living, high thinking, and that is genuine simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
But, to nowadays, if anyone is coming up to be saying that, yes, I'm very, or, posing to be very simple, and if they're not devotees, then that simplicity, could be a show, could be. It just could be. But because Prabhupada actually in a room conversation, Prabhupada is very, very, very strong, and he said that if you're not a devotee, then you cannot have any good qualities. Prabhupada was blunt in saying that. It's all a pretense otherwise, and in trying or challenging situations, their actual nature would come out. Prabhupada would laugh and he would tell a very nice joke. He said that there was once a man, and he was very much affluent in all kinds of languages, and anyone would come to him and he would respond in that particular language to that particular person, He was very, very, very multilinguist, very talented person. So then, one of, some people, they said, my God, this guy is so good, he's so talented, but what is his original mother tongue? We don't even know that. Then one of those intelligent persons, smart, intelligent guy, he said, wait, I'll find out what is his mother tongue. So he came from behind and he just hit the guy on his head. And then he just, then his mother tongue came out. Because when he got a shock and a hit from back, he actually he cursed in his mother tongue. So the thing, Prabhupada joked at this by telling this incident. It was a joke that Prabhupada was saying. But then Prabhupada said that if you really want to know the intent of a person, see them in trying situations, if they're really composed or not, if they're really simple or not. That brings out people's true natures,
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I have a few questions. I have 3 questions.
Yes?
Okay. Mataji, at what point does the soul get actually liberated? Because you said the soul is eternal. And you also mentioned that if we are equipoised and if we can stay composed in both happiness and distress, we can get liberated. So.
Well, the answer to that is at what point do we get liberation is that as soon as we have the realized knowledge that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. Prabhupada said that you are liberated, even if you are in this world. So as soon as the jnana, that, right now we all know theoretically, like jnana, knowledge, that yes, we are not this body, we are spirit soul. But as soon as we can realize it, as soon as it becomes vijnana, once we realize it, then we are in liberated state. Then we'll not act according to our body, but we'll act according to our spiritual soul. We'll act as the spirit soul.
Very nice explanation, Mataji, because that was my next question. Like, how do I remind myself constantly that I am not this impermanent body, I am a spirit soul? How do I remind myself?
Very nice, very nice. The way, actually Srila Prabhupada, after around 7 years of the establishment of ISKCON, ISKCON was registered in 1966, and then after 7-8 years, Srila Prabhupada, he would give Bhagavatam class every day, and then Prabhupada would always, just in every one of his classes, if you listen to the early days classes, Every one of them, Prabhupada's talking about this one point, that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. And then one day one disciple, asked Srila Prabhupada, saying that, Prabhupada, okay, we get it. Prabhupada, got it. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. We get it. What next, Prabhupada? And then Srila Prabhupada looked at him and said, did you really get it? Have you really gotten it? So that we really get it, and we remember it, and we learn how to act on it, we have to keep listening to it repeatedly, Prabhupada said. That's how we will actually get it. That's how we will actually start acting on it. Only when we repeatedly hear it. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. Because, okay, so when I'm not listening to it and, okay, I'm doing something, I still get anger, I still get fear, I mean, all of those emotions are still there, and
right.
I react to it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I stop that also, right? Because that's when one can reach the state of liberation, and we can be neutral to everything that's happening around us.
Very true. Do you have a fan in your house?
Yes, Mataji.
You do? Okay. When you turn off the fan, does it stop immediately rotating?
No.
How does it stop?
Slowly. Over time.
Slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly, it comes to one standpoint, right?
Yes.
So the point is that when we are starting this process, now just imagine that we have been conditioned in this world, in this material world, eternally. Eternally means we don't even know since when we are here. We don't know. Right? So let's just take it for granted that's why we are called as eternally conditioned living entities. That's what, is our brand name right now. We are just conditioned. And being conditioned in this material world, it just means that you are thinking like, okay, you will get, you are conditioned to get angry. You're conditioned to, look for name, fame, profit, adoration, distinction. You're looking for all of this. You're hungry for all of this. You are driven by lust, pride, greed, envy, anger. That's your driving natures. These are the kind of qualities that have been bred and fed into us from time immemorial. So when this happens, and then suddenly we are now trying to, go to, what is that called? What facility? To recuperate. What is it called?
Rehab center?
Yeah, rehab center or a correctional facility. When we go to a correctional facility, almost like a prison house, what do we do there? The purpose of prison house is actually to stop, the prisoners from committing further, so that they go. That's why it's called a correctional facility. But people don't get corrected over there. Sometimes they come out to be more violent, and sometimes they come out to get corrected also. They realize, okay, I've done a mistake. Okay, now I'm not going to do anymore. But the prison house is actually called a correctional facility. So when they're in correctional facility, or people who are trying to, get rid of bad habits like alcohol, so, how much of struggle do they have to do, to give that bad habit up? It's not an overnight process. It's just not an overnight process. We cannot expect that, okay, now, today I got this knowledge, Now from tomorrow, I'm going to just stop getting angry. I'm just going to, be very peaceful, very calm. I'm going to realize that, yes, I'm not this body, I am spirit, soul, and I'm going to be on top of, I'm going to be floating in the air. I'm going to be peaceful, yes. No, it's not going to be that easy of a transformation. I mean, Khatvanga Maharaj was able to do that. He was able to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 1 second, 1 moment. He surrendered to Krishna. But for us, we are not that. We cannot. So we need to do sadhana. We need to keep reminding ourselves. Therefore, this practice that Srila Prabhupada has given, the chanting of 16 rounds every day, reading the books, all of this, when we do these kind of, discipline in our life, then, yes, if you are following the process, yes, Prabhupada said, if anyone is chanting and attending Mangalarti for 12 years continuously every day, whatever, they say, that person says, that is going to become the truth. Prabhupada has made these kind of comments. So there is, miracles that happen. There are so many, that's why we have such wonderful, amazing, pure devotees in our movement. Because they've been practicing this Hare Krishna Mahamantra and, practicing the life of a devotee since, 2 decades at least. 2, 3, 4 decades, 5 decades. So they are all such great, amazing devotees, So we have to have faith in the process, but it is not overnight. It will take time. Have faith, continue on with faith, move on with and associate with the faithful, and we all are here to catch each other's hands and keep moving forward. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Any more questions?
Thank you very much, Mataji, for your very, very wonderful answer and the analogy about the fan, Mataji. In my very early years of Krishna consciousness, I also had this question, and I had asked this question to my Siksha Guru, His Grace Suchimayiti Prabhu, and he had given me this answer, and it helped me so much over the years to be patient with many things, trying to get rid of those things about the fan. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Kisiva Sundari Mataji, I will just read to you regarding your question directly from Prabhupada. I just wanted to get to the exact purport. This is in the purport of text 19 regarding animal killing. Prabhupada is saying that the spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Ma himsayat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. So you can see how Prabhupada is very clearly distinguishing that animal killing is because it is driven by our sense of taste, it is whimsical, and it is, selfish, and it is going to be bound to have reaction. But the killing of Arjuna, because it was for the purpose of upholding religion, So that is why that killing was justified, because it was for the purpose of dharma. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much.